logistics that are adapted to the scale of the Indo-Pacific area, and also the ability to be resilient even in the face of significant precision attack at scale is very important. And so self-sustaining kind of energy models are I think...
As this, I'm going to call it conflict, war, however you want to define it, as we're moving into this once again, and I'm for sure, and I may be totally wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure we're pretty positive we fought in Iraq for about 20 years. I may be wrong on that. It may be a lot shorter than that. I may be losing my mind. But I would recommend, if we're not doing that, that the Department of War takes a hard look on long-term sustainability if we have to send boots on the ground like we did in Iraq and Afghanistan. The United States lacks a sufficient domestic production for high-purity iron. High-purity iron serves as a foundation input for rare earth magnets, permanent magnets, naval shipbuilding, alloys, electrical systems, hypersonic systems, and other advanced defense applications. Where do we stand on that currently if we're trying to pull everything back into the United States?
Sir, I'm sorry, I'll have to get back to you. I don't have an update.
I'm going to get something to you here in a second, I promise. What's your familiarity on subsea cabling as far as the department?
Somewhat, obviously limited in what I can say in this setting.
Are you familiar with the department's stance on, in any way, shape, or form, subsea cabling?
Yes, I'm familiar in general terms, not trying to be evasive, just obviously a lot of that's behind the...
Do you know how much information travels underneath the subsea cabling systems from the United States everywhere?
I don't have a precise figure, but I think it's a lot.
95 to 99% of all communications, including Department of War's information, travels under the water, not over the top of our head. I'm curious of what the offensive, defensive capabilities of protection of these subsea cabling systems is, and what the strategy will be moving forward. And my concern is, because we talk about the Department of War, I've been asking every secretary, deputy secretary, and all their buddies, who's responsible for the subsea cable protection for the United States? And I've got Department of War, Homeland Security, Commerce, DOJ, FCC, the dude walking down the street, and probably the guy that flew the plane here to get me back to DC, touches this in some way. My question is, if we have a catastrophic hit on those cabling systems, because $10 trillion travels underneath that system daily, I can't get a straight answer on who's responsible if they are hit, which we get hit twice a week. Nefarious actors, fishermen, doesn't matter. But I need someone to tell me, because this isn't where we're looking. And that's guerrilla warfare. And the way that I see it, if you cripple our ability to communicate, whether that's data, banking, Department of War, there's a lot worse things in life than dying. And if you take our economy down to a knee, we're in bad shape. So I'm assuming you can't speak to me in detail in this setting, but what I would like to have is either come see you come see me, or in this classified setting that we're going to have after the fact. I need some answers from the Department of War, because I'll say not if, but when something happens, somebody's going to have to speak to us and tell us why, because what I don't want is to say that we weren't looking. Fair enough?
More than fair, sir. I share your concern about it. It's not, I'm the policy guy, but I'll commit to get you a good answer, and would be delighted to talk to you further about that and other topics.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I yield.
Chairman yields back. Chair, and I recognize the gentlelady from Washington, Ms. Strickland.
Thank you, Chairman Rogers. Undersecretary Colby, you were one of the principal architects of the 2026 National Defense Strategy, and that document makes it very clear that the PRC is the pacing threat, and that deterring the PRC in the Indo-Pacific is the central organizing principle of this administration's defense policy. I've got 6 questions. The first 3 are yes and no, and then we can go into some other detail. So I want to examine whether current force allocations actually reflect that strategy or if they contradict it. So for clarity, the 2026 NDS identifies the PRC as the pacing challenge, correct?
That's correct.
The Indo-Pacific remains the primary theater shaping force planning and modernization.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, second question. Credible deterrence in the Indo-Pacific requires forward deployed naval presence, long-range strike capabilities, and sufficient precision-guided munitions inventories. Would you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
And the National Defense Strategy emphasizes prioritization and disciplined allocation of limited high-end capabilities, correct?
Correct.
All right, so now let's turn to current operations. Over the past week, the department has executed significant naval and air combat operations against Iran. And I want to be clear, no one is saying that the Islamic Republic Guard of Iran is a good actor. We know that they are the largest state sponsor of terrorism. But your own strategy said, and I quote, "No longer will the department be distracted by interventionism, endless wars, regime change, and nation building." And nothing says distracted like killing the leader of a foreign nation without even a hint of strategy or planning. This operation against Iran involves large numbers of U.S. aircraft, ships, and precision weapons. So, Secretary Colby, are high-end capabilities like long-range strike aircraft and cruise missiles being used now in these operations? And those same capabilities, long-range strike weapons and precision munitions, are also central to U.S. planning for potential conflict in the Indo-Pacific, correct?
Ma'am, we'd have to go into it more in a classified setting. I think we'd have to get to more differentiated in the way that we're managing, I think, this very effectively.
Okay, I look forward to that conversation. Now I want to talk about munitions inventories. Last year, during the 12-day war between Israel and Iran, U.S. forces fired more than 150 THAAD interceptors defending against Iranian missile strikes, up to a quarter of the entire stockpile. Even if every interceptor we buy this year goes toward rebuilding our inventory, it's only going to replace a third of what was used. We already expend a large share of our missile defense inventory during last year's conflict with Iran. Now again, we are using high-end weapons while the Pentagon is warning about munition shortages. These interceptors, as you know, are not easy to replace. The U.S. buys only dozens per year, and some missile defense systems take years to replenish. And again, how does using these limited weapons against Iran align with your strategy's requirement to prioritize the pacing challenge in the Indo-Pacific?
Well, thank you, ma'am. I think the way the military campaign is being constructed is conscious of that, but more, I would say a couple of things. One, I'd reiterate that this strategy and the administration's efforts already anticipate, I think, the points you're making, ma'am. One, with the $1.5 trillion budget request. Two, with the extraordinary, unprecedented degree from the president on down of overhauling something I think we all agree with, is talking to Congressman Khanna about as well, about getting defense industry to produce at a much higher scale. I mean, $1 trillion is a lot of money for the American people. Spend $1.5 trillion is a lot of, we should be getting better results, and our allies and partners stepping up. And then in the classified session, maybe a bit more, we're also thinking about how do we really think about novel ways for the force to be prepared to fight in a way that ensures effective defense. And I think we've got a very good plan, and I'm confident, and also I think both our friends and potential foes are seeing the prowess of the joint force, and that also contributes to deterrence.
Yeah, and as far as requesting more funding, we dramatically increased the budget for ICE. So there's money that exists if we want to use it properly to actually defend ourselves and plus up our munitions. And so closing, I'll just say this. Secretary Colby, the 2026 National Defense Strategy says the PRC is the pacing challenge and that our most advanced capabilities must be prioritized for that competition. Yet again, we are using many of those same scarce weapons against Iran, a regional adversary that cannot strike the U.S. homeland and is going to result in the deaths of the young men and women who proudly wear the uniform. And we are hoping and praying for their safe return, and our sympathy goes out to those who we lost. So I think a question for this committee is quite simple. Are our current actions following strategy or forcing to put our service members and our partners and allies in the Pacific at risk? The American people want transparency. Congress has the authority to authorize war, and the word war has been used by the president,
Gentlelady's time
by
expired.
Secretary.
You're not
I yield back,
recognized.
sir.
Gentlelady from Virginia, Ms. Kiggins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have the privilege of representing Virginia's 2nd Congressional District, so home to the East Coast Navy fleet. As a Navy veteran, Navy spouse, and now proud Navy mom, I certainly want to, first of all, shout out to the men and women from my district who are forward deployed in the Middle East right now, doing the tip of the spear work for the country. But every time I turn on the news and I see, when they talk about the Iran conflict, it always comes up first these days. One of the first pictures they show are usually of F-18s taking off aircraft carriers, most likely from my district, again, from the East Coast. And every once in a while they'll show an F-35. I've known that they've integrated that a little bit more. So I want to start off you are the self-proclaimed policy guy. So something that's very important to me. I'm starting to sound like a broken record up here, but I think there's no question about the importance of the East Coast Navy, and especially the East Coast Carrier Air Wings that we have stationed at our East Coast Master Jet Base. We only have two. We have one in the West Coast, Naval Air Station Lemoore, and then Naval Air Station Oceana. So I want to know from the Department of War's perspective, what is the holdup? What is the delay? Because I've queried the Navy and all Navy leadership every time I can get a hold of them about what the delay is about making that policy choice decision to prioritize getting what we have in front of us, which next generation strike fighter we love to talk about. FAXX is always on the table, but we have F-35s. The Marines have them on the East Coast at Cherry Point. We've got them on the West Coast, but I think no one will argue about the importance of what the East Coast Navy is doing, our East Coast aircraft carriers and our East Coast Carrier Air Wings. So what is the plan to integrate that latest and greatest F-35 into the East Coast?
Ma'am, I regret that I'll have to defer the Navy on that, but I'll commit to get you an answer as soon as possible.
Okay, please make that a priority because it's frustrating for us. We have 30-year-old plus F-18s that are aging. We ask these guys to be tip of the spear. On that same line, we spend millions of dollars training our pilots, and